Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, June 7th. There's almost 450 albums coming out this week. I got 12 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 450 albums coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 12 on the show today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section. So it's not a huge week for new releases, but there are a bunch of reissues coming out. I mean, there are a couple of new albums coming out also, but it's mainly reissues coming out this week. The first one is one I've been waiting a long time to get an official release. This is Japanese Whispers, The Cure singles 82 to 83. This was released back by The Cure in 1983. This is all B-sides, early singles from the band. So I think there's 8 or 9 tracks on here. They're all recorded in, I think it was late 82 to early part of 83. It's really cool stuff. It's all newly remastered by Robert Smith himself. It's going to run you around $35. It's going to be on clear vinyl. This is one that's been bootlegged a bunch of times over the years. The last time it was released as a standard release was back in 1988. And then a bunch of, like I said, bootlegs or unofficial pressings, whatever you want to call them, have come out over the years. Since 88, though, there's only been 2 official pressings I know of. Both of them were on picture disc. So this is one that is a huge fan of The Cure ever since I was a kid. This is definitely one I'm going to grab this week. This is the first album by The Cure that hit the Billboard 200 charts here in the U.S. I think it was like 181 or 182. So it was like definitely on the higher end of the Billboard 200, but it was the first album by the band to chart on that one. So you got that coming out this week, and then you got the new album from Bon Jovi, Forever, coming out. This is their 16th studio album. It's going to run you around $38 online. There's a black version of this. There's a black and clear split version, which is the Amazon exclusive release. So this is the band's first album since 2020, which is the album that came out in 2020 had one of the more creative names for an album over the last couple of years. It was called 2020. So, but I will say that I think I only heard like maybe 2 or 3 songs off of 2020. I haven't listened to Bon Jovi for a lot. It's been at least the last couple of albums that I haven't really checked out. I think Richie Sambora left the band in, I think, 2014. I think it was about 10 years ago he left the band. Haven't listened to a whole lot of stuff since then. I think they kind of lost something when Richie left the band. But I'm definitely going to check this one out this week. Because like I said, I'm always looking forward to checking out new music. I think they've released a couple of singles off this one. I've held off on listening to any of that, though, until I can check out the whole album this week. There's a reissue coming out this week that I haven't heard a whole lot about. Really kind of anything about, but I'm really looking forward to grabbing a copy of this week. This is Smoking Pope's Born to Quit. This was released back in 1994. It was their second studio album. Going to run you around $33 online. This is on pink and white sunburn vinyl, celebrating its 30th anniversary. This is being reissued for the first time with the original artwork on there. This is also I think the second time it's ever been pressed on vinyl. I think the first time was like 2013. So this wasn't available on vinyl for a really, really long time. If you're unfamiliar with the Smoking Popes, they're a Chicago-based punk band that released, I think, 7 albums over the last 30 or so years. Some really cool stuff in there. This is their most known album. There was songs off of this that were featured in the movie Tommy Boy. There's another song that was featured in the movie Clueless, which if you're under the age of 35, you probably don't even know what either one of those movies are. But this is definitely a really good album to check out if you're unfamiliar with Smoking Popes. This is a really good album to kind of start and get into the band. If you're into punk music, especially that Chicago-based stuff from the late 90s, early 2000s, like I said, definitely a cool one to check out. Then you get the new album from Charli XCX coming out this week. This is Brat. It's their 6th studio album. It's going to run you around $35 online. There's a bunch of different variants going to be available of this one. There's a black version. There's a gray version, which is the Amazon exclusive. And then there's a clear with pink splatter, which is going to be the indie exclusive. I think there's another one that's available through her website also. So if you're unfamiliar with who Charli XCX is, she's an English musician. She does a lot of this like electropop, kind of like dance pop stuff. Stuff that, to be completely honest, is not stuff I generally listen to, but it's one of those things I try to do every week, is try to find artists outside of my like normal, like stuff that really kind of hits my wheelhouse, stuff that I would never listen to, and really kind of go into it with an open mind and try to check out new stuff. And this is one of those newer albums I'm going to check out this week. As someone's really gotten into jazz music over probably the last 5 or so years, every week when I do these new release videos, I try to find some really cool and interesting new jazz releases that are coming out. This week you got a few of them. This week you got Kenny Burrell and John Coltrane. This is a self-titled release from 1963. It's going to run you around $39 online. This is part of the Kraft Recordings Original Jazz Classic Series. Kraft does a great job with these releases. These are all taken from the original analog tapes. They're pressed to RTI. They always sound fantastic. I'm kind of on the fence about this one, though. I mean, I love John Coltrane, easily my favorite jazz musician. Kenny Burrell, also somebody that I've gotten more into over the last year, but he does a lot of really cool stuff also. But I don't know if it's just these two guys together. Maybe it doesn't mesh as well as I want it to. It's still a really good album. It's still a really solid jazz album. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably like a 7.5 for me. Maybe it's just the price tag. I don't know if, $39 is a little pricey. Maybe if I can grab it on sale somewhere, maybe I'll grab a copy of it this week. But they got a great lineup on here, though, with them. They got Tommy Flanagan, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb. Like I said, two great jazz musicians. Good jazz album. Maybe I'll grab that one. And then you also got Charli Haden, The Golden Number, getting reissued. This was first released back in '77. It's going to run you around $30 online. This is part of the Verb by Request series, pressed out at Third Man Records here in Detroit. They do a great job with these albums also. I think they're kind of along the same lines as Kraft. They're finding all these older jazz albums that have been pressed in decades, kind of giving them a whole new life. And, I really appreciate Verve for doing this. Same thing with the Kraft series that they've done. This is an album that I wasn't familiar at all with Charli until I was doing research for the show here and actually streamed it for the first time. Really good release. This is one that, like I said, for $30, I'll probably grab a copy of this week also. There's a great version. So I guess I should add that you got Don Cherry on here, you got Archie Shepp, you got Hampton Hawes, and then you got Ornette Coleman on here. There's a great Ornette Coleman track on here called Turnaround. I think it's kind of the gem of this album. So for $30, I'll probably grab a copy of it this week. Next album is another one that's part of the Verb by Request series. Same thing. It's all pressed at Third Man Records here in Detroit. It's going to run you around $30 online. But this is Alice Coltrane, a Monastic trio, released back in 1968. So this album was originally intended as a tribute to Alice's late husband, John Coltrane. I think he died a year, maybe 2 years before the release of this album. But when this album first came out, it was met with a lot of really mixed reviews. But it kind of turned into, over time, this really influential avant-garde jazz album. It's really kind of cool. It's an interesting album to kind of go back through. It's not your typical kind of jazz music. It's one that it took me a really long time to kind of fall in love with. I don't have a copy of it. I probably will grab a copy of it this week. And then you get John Lee Hooker, Burn in Hell getting reissued this week. Released back in 1964. It's recorded in '59 though, so I don't know why there's such a big time gap between the recording of it and the release of it. It's going to run you around $30 online. This is part of the Kraft Recordings Bluesville Acoustic Sound Series. It's pressed at QRP. This is released in conjunction with Analog Productions. So anything that Analog Productions is involved in is always going to sound fantastic. This is a really cool release though, because this is a solo acoustic album from John Lee Hooker, of course one of the titans of the blues. And it's a genre of music I've tried to get more into over the last probably year or so. So it's definitely one I'm going to try to grab this week. There's a great compilation that's getting reissued this week. This is Tina Turner, Simply the Best. Released in 1991. It's going to be on blue vinyl. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to run you around $33 online. So this is the greatest hits compilation from Tina. But of the 18 tracks on here, a vast majority of these are all from the 80s and the very early part of the 90s. I think there's also 3 unreleased tracks on here, unreleased as of 1991. As far as stuff with Ike on here, there's only one track on here with Ike, and that is River Deep Mountain High, which is a great track. I understand why they included it on this greatest hits compilation, but I think there's some stuff that Tina did in the 70s that probably could have been included in here also, but I understand. A bulk of her greatest work is all in the 80s, so that's what you're getting on this compilation. I don't have a copy of this. I'll probably grab a copy of it this week. I will say that this has been reissued several times over the last couple of years. It was reissued in 2019. It was also reissued earlier this year. There's a UK version, and then there's a US version. This is the UK version that's getting reissued this week. So you got that coming out, and then you got the self-titled album from Deep Purple. This is one that I was really confused on. So I didn't know if this was a new release. Deep Purple also released their third album was also a self-titled album. So it's kind of known as Deep Purple 3. So I didn't know exactly what this was. I didn't know if this is a reissue of Deep Purple 3 or if this is a compilation. From the cover art, it looks like a compilation. It looks like... So I guess what this is this is a compilation of a bunch of Deep Purple's best-known tracks. My question was, I didn't know if it was like studio versions of them or if it was live. Because if you look at the track listing, it all looks like it's studio versions. But then across the top of the album artwork, it says live in concert. So I ended up finding out what this was. This is actually all live material. These are all taken from FM broadcasts, which sometimes aren't the greatest sounding recordings. Deep Purple's a great band. I'd love to have a copy of this, but I'm going to wait and read some of the reviews to see how the sound quality is before I try to grab a copy of it. Another really underrated album that's getting reissued this week is Mustard Plug, Pray for Mojo. This was released back in 1999. It was a 4-studio album. It's going to run you around $21 online. 25th anniversary release. It's going to be on blue vinyl. So Mustard Plug, if you're unfamiliar with them, they really got popular in the later part of the 90s with the whole kind of ska craze that kicked up. So the album that came out before this and the album that came out after this, I think were definitely more popular albums. Evildoers Beware was the album that came out before, and then Yellow Number 5 was the album that came out after. Both of those which have been reissued just recently. This is an album that I really enjoyed this one, though, and I think I like this one better than I like either one of those other two albums. As somebody who grew up a huge fan of The Simpsons, if you don't know who Mojo is, Mojo was Homer Simpson's helper monkey in an episode of The Simpsons. I think it was 98 when that episode aired. This is a really good album, though. It's one, like I said, it's one that I haven't listened to in a long time, though. I need to go back through and check it out this week. For $21, I probably will grab a copy of it. I will say that the album artwork for this 25th anniversary release is different. I was never a fan of the artwork on this album. And there was a different version of different album artwork when this album came out. There was a Japanese release. I like the artwork on the Japanese release. This is kind of an updated version of the artwork on that Japanese release. So definitely, I'll definitely keep my eyes out on that one this week. And then the last one on my list is a self-titled debut album from Enuff's Enuff. Came out back in 1989. This is a Friday music release. It's going to be on purple vinyl. This is an album that wasn't released on vinyl for a long time. It was originally released in 89 when it came out. And then it didn't get reissued again until 2021. This is a reissue of that Friday music release from 2021. Fly High Michelle was the big track that was on this album. It hit number 74 on the Billboard 200. I love this album. This is an album that I think had it been released a year or two earlier, I think it would have done better commercially. I'm not a huge fan of the song Fly High Michelle, but there's some other really great tracks on this album. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. I'm definitely going to grab a copy of The Cure. I'll probably stream that new Bon Jovi album to check that out. I'll check out the new Charli XCX album also. There's maybe another 3 or 4 ones I'm kind of on the fence about. We'll see what reviews are when the albums drop this week. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.